Today we present you the fascinating journey through the life and legacy of a man who not only built an American empire but also became synonymous with old money. We're talking about Joseph Patrick Kennedy, a name that rings through history as the patriarch of the illustrious Kennedy family, including President John F. Kennedy, Attorney General and Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Senator Ted Kennedy. From humble beginnings in East Boston, Massachusetts, to amassing a colossal fortune and achieving remarkable political prominence, Joe Kennedy's story is a captivating tale of success and influence. So, let's dive into the story of how this man rose to become a titan of his time and helped shape American history. Our story begins in East Boston on September 6, 1888, where Joseph Patrick Kennedy was born into a family already deeply involved in politics. He was the son of Mary Augusta and Patrick Joseph, P.J. Kennedy. From an early age, Joe showed remarkable promise, excelling at Boston Latin School and even being elected class president. He continued his academic journey at Harvard College, where he was a member of the prestigious Hasty Pudding Club, though he didn't receive an invitation from the Porcellian Club. In 1912, Joe Kennedy graduated from Harvard with a bachelor's degree in economics. In 1914, Joe Kennedy married Rose Fitzgerald, the daughter of Boston Mayor John F. Honey Fitzgerald and Mary Josephine Josie Hannon. The couple settled in the Boston suburb of Brookline, Massachusetts. Joe's ambitions quickly turned towards a business career. He started as a state-employed bank examiner, where he gained valuable insights into the banking industry. In a bold move, he borrowed $45,000 from family and friends to regain control of the Columbia Trust Bank, becoming its president at just 25 years old. Joe's knack for spotting opportunities in the business world became evident as he ventured into various enterprises. He made a fortune as an active commodity and stock investor, reinvesting his profits into film studios, real estate, and shipping. Some rumors have linked him to bootlegging during Prohibition, but credible evidence remains elusive. When Fortune magazine published its first list of the richest Americans in 1957, Joe Kennedy found himself in the 200-400 million bracket. In 1919, Joe Kennedy joined Hayden, Stone & Co., a prominent stock brokerage firm, where he gained expertise in dealing with the unregulated stock market of the time. He even survived the Wall Street bombing of 1920, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. In 1923, he established his own investment company and made a fortune by taking short positions following the 1929 stock market crash. Joe Kennedy's influence extended to Hollywood, where he reorganized and refinanced several film studios, quickly moving from local film distribution to industry-wide arrangements and production. His ambition was clear when he declared, "I could take the whole business away from them." He even ventured into controlling shares of Keith Albee Orpheum Theaters Corporation, with over 700 vaudeville theaters that began showing movies. Kennedy merged his film companies to form Radio Keith Orpheum, RKO, making substantial profits. His astute decision to invest in photophone technology and forming connections between Hollywood and RCA laid the foundation for his success. With the repeal of Prohibition, Joe Kennedy's business ventures expanded into liquor importing, where he made a handsome profit by importing high-priced scotch. Some have claimed he was involved in bootlegging, but historical evidence remains scarce. He even purchased spirits importation rights from Schenley Industries, a Canadian distillery and liquor company. Joe Kennedy was not content with his successes in the financial and entertainment industries. He turned his attention to real estate, investing in various residential and commercial properties, concentrating much of it in New York City. His most significant real estate acquisition was the Merchandise Mart in Chicago, the largest privately owned building in the country at the time. This acquisition provided a substantial source of wealth for the Kennedy family, becoming a financial base for their political ambitions. As Joe Kennedy's wealth and influence grew, so did his involvement in politics. In 1932, he supported Franklin D. Roosevelt's bid for the presidency, marking his first significant role in national politics. His financial support, donations, and fundraising efforts played a vital role in Roosevelt's campaign. In 1934, with the establishment of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, to regulate the securities market, Joe Kennedy was appointed as its first chairman. He assembled a team of lawyers to help clean up the securities market, restore investor confidence, and put an end to fraudulent practices. Kennedy's tenure as SEC chairman was widely praised as he successfully reassured investors and protected their interests. Kennedy's political involvement continued when Roosevelt appointed him as chairman of the U.S. Maritime Commission in 1937. This role built on his experience in running a major shipyard during World War I, and Kennedy was instrumental in promoting and developing the American maritime industry. During the 1930s, Joe Kennedy was tasked with a unique challenge, dealing with the influential and controversial figure, Father Charles Coughlin. Coughlin was a prominent Roman Catholic spokesman whose anti-communist, anti-Semitic, and far-right radio talks gained a massive following. Joe Kennedy, despite their differences, sought to tone down Coughlin's influence and maintain support for Roosevelt's New Deal. Picture this. It's 1938, and Joe Kennedy and his wife are living the high life in London. They're not just hobnobbing with aristocrats and royalty. They're practically soaking in English hospitality at balls, dinners, regattas, and derbies. The pinnacle of it all, a weekend at Windsor Castle, hosted by King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. As Kennedy looked at his wife, he couldn't help but marvel. "Well, Rose, this is a hell of a long way from East Boston, isn't it?" Kennedy used his wealth and connections to forge a national network of supporters that would set the stage for his sons' political careers. He honed in on Irish-American communities in major cities like Boston, New York, Chicago, and more. And get this, he had the New York Times heavyweight, Arthur Crock, in his corner for years as a paid speechwriter and political advisor. Kennedy wasn't just any political player. He was a conservative force, even to the right of Herbert Hoover. In 1960, he approached none other than Richard Nixon, showering him with praise for his anti-communism. Now, here's where things get interesting. Kennedy's close ties with Senator Joseph McCarthy gave his family a solid foothold in the Irish Catholic community, but it raised some eyebrows among liberal circles who vehemently opposed McCarthy. They were so close that McCarthy was practically a weekend house guest at the Kennedy compound in Hyannisport. And believe it or not, McCarthy even dated Kennedy's daughter, Patricia. When McCarthy became the poster child for anti-communism, Kennedy didn't hold back. He dropped thousands of dollars into McCarthy's coffers and became a staunch supporter. In the 1952 U.S. Senate race, Kennedy orchestrated a deal that left McCarthy off the campaign trail in Massachusetts in exchange for John F. Kennedy's silence on anti-McCarthy sentiments. Kennedy found himself in a tight spot in 1954. With his son Robert working for McCarthy and the Senate threatening to censure McCarthy, JFK faced a moral dilemma. He even had a speech drafted, but it never saw the light of day. When the Senate voted to censure McCarthy, Joe Kennedy stood firmly by his side till the very end. Kennedy's connections and influence weren't just for show. They paved the way for his son's political journeys. After a rough patch during World War II, Joe Sr. shifted his focus to his second son, John, who would go on to make history. John once joked about his father asking him for the exact number of votes he'd need to secure victory. No landslide expenses for Joe Sr. And there you have it, folks. The incredible story of Joe Kennedy, who turned East Boston dreams into Buckingham Palace realities. From political alliances to family dilemmas, his journey is nothing short of legendary. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button and subscribe for more fascinating tales from history.